Okay, hi Year 9. I'm hoping you can hear me in this video. Hopefully I will be back tomorrow on Thursday and we can go from there. What we're going to start is our next topic now. If you have a look up on the screen, up on the OneNote, it is expressions and equations. Now if you think back to right at the start of this term, we already have done the first part of this topic. We worked through 2A, 2B and 2C as the start of our algebra topic, and we're moving straight in to 2D. So if you forget what we did earlier on in the year, I've filed everything under old topics at the top here, and you will find our algebra work 2A, B and C in there. So I'm going to assume that we know what like terms are and that we can collect like terms, and we're going to move on to 2D, which is equations. Now, before we look at an equation, we need to understand what one is. An equation is a maths sentence that has an equal sign in it. So all of these things here would be equations. They've got unknowns, in this case an x, they've got pronumerals, and they have an equal sign. So all of these are equations. And what our aim is in all of our questions here is to come up with a value for x. We'll start with some simple ones which you've done last year, and we're going to move on to what we call two-step equations. Now, before we can actually look at those equations, we need to have a look at some of these operations over here and look at what the opposite of an operation is. So, we know that the opposite of a plus is a minus. We've been doing that for many years now, so the opposite of a minus is a plus. What we need to do also is understand that the opposite of a times is a divide, and a divide is a times. And when we get a little bit fancier with our equations, we'll learn that the opposite of squaring something and square rooting something are the inverse or the opposites. So what we want to look at today with our equations is looking at doing the opposite to what's there to manipulate the equation into something that we want to have to work with. Okay, so instead of what you can read through these notes here, so I'll give that, I won't read through those, but under our page 2D linear equations with pronumerals on one side, if you want to have a read through those notes, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm going to jump straight into explaining some simple equations. Now, if we have a look straight over to 2D, I'm going to have a look at the first one. Now, some of these are very straightforward. Our first equation there that we're going to have a look at is C. X plus 7 equals 12. So if I write that down here, that x plus 7 equals 12, that's something that you guys could do in primary school. You're going to go, okay, what do I add to 7 to get me 12? It's going to be 5, isn't it? 7 plus 5 is 12. But what I want to do is I want to look at it in a different way. I want to look at how we get that and why we get that. So our aim is to eventually get x equal to something. But at the moment, I have a plus 7 on that side as well. So x plus 7 is 12. I only want x there by itself. So I need to get rid of this plus 7. So what is the opposite of adding 7 to something? We think of what our opposite operations are. That would be taking 7 away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 7 away from the left-hand side of my equation, or the left-hand side of the equal side, and I'm going to go and take 7 away from the other side of the equation as well. So if I do it to both sides of the equation, our equation stays in balance. We're allowed to do it. It doesn't change the question. If I only did it to one side, then I've totally altered the question altogether and it's not possible to work with anymore. So if I do this, what I now can do is take that 7 away from each side, see what I've got, and have a look at our answer. Now I like to try and line it up like this. My x will go back under the x. I've had a plus 7 and I've taken away a 7. So I now find that those guys cancel out. Plus 7 take away 7 becomes 0, and that's what I want. If it doesn't do that or I end up with 14, I've done the wrong thing. So they go away. My equal sign is still there, and my right hand side over here of the equal side, I've equal sign. I have a 12 take away 7, which is what? It's 5. And so that gives me my answer, which is the one we got to start with. So that's why we do it, and I want us to be able to do it this way as well, because we're going to be looking at two steps in a moment. So the next question I want to have a look at would be this one. We'll say x minus 7 is equal to minus 1. X minus 7 equals minus 1. You might be able to do that one in your head. You might not. You don't need to anymore. We want to rearrange the equation and come up with x equals something using the rules. Okay, so again, my aim is to get x as my answer. But at the moment, I have a minus 7 in the way. I need to get that minus 7, and I want that to go to 0. So what's the opposite of minusing 7? It is adding 7. I'm going to add 7 and I'm going to add 7. So I need to add 7 to each side of that equal sign. If I do that, then my equation remains balanced and it's not going to change the equation at all because we've done the same thing to both sides of the question. And so that's mathematically allowed. So on my side over here where the x is, I'm going to pop my x back down. I have a minus 7 and a plus 7. Pop it on your calculator if you need to. Minus 7 plus 7 becomes 0. So I don't need to write anything down there. It's disappeared. That's what I want. I pop my equal sign back down and then I have a look at the right hand side. Minus 1 plus 7. Minus 1 plus 7 is 6. And that is my answer. X equals 6. If I got that 6 and popped it back into my question, I can check to see if it's right. 6 take away 7 equals minus 1. Yes, we're correct. Let's look at another one-step equation. What do we got over here? I'll do the last couple. Actually, I might make them a little bit different so that you can have a go at those again in a second yourself. Let's look at 2x equals 15. Okay, what you'll notice in this case is it's a multiplication. We've got 2 times x. I still want to work out, what my x is going to be. Fix that one up. I still want to have x as my answer, but in this case I have a 2 in the way. So you need to think about what's happening in this case. I have 2 multiplied by x. What is the opposite of multiplying by 2? It is dividing by 2. So I am going to divide by 2 on this side and divide by 2 on this side. Okay, you can put the divided by sign instead of the line if you like. That's okay. And what our aim is instead of having our 2's go to 0, which is what happened when we added and subtracted on the other first 2 questions, in this case, our 2's are going to go to 1. 2 divided by 2. Pop it in your calculator if you're not sure. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So what I get there is these guys here cancel out and I end up with a 1x instead, or an x. 1x or x, and that's what I want. By dividing by the term that's already there, or dividing by the 2, those 2 give me a 1, which is exactly what I want. So now I've got 1x or x, and on my right hand side of that equals sign, I've got 15 divided by 2, which you can leave as 15 divided by 2, or you can think of it as 7.5, and that's my answer. If I plugged that back in my question, 2 times 7.5, I'd get 15, so I'm okay. Now there's one last type we want to have a little look at, and that is where we have a question like x divided by 6 equals 3. Now you can probably do that one in your head, which is great, but we need to know how to do it this way because we're going to look at extra steps in a moment and we're going to have to apply it over and over again. Okay, so again, I need to find what x equals. At the moment, it's x divided by 6. So I need to think of what's happening here. It's dividing by 6 on the side with the x on it. So what's the opposite of dividing? It's times. So what I want to do is I want to times by 6 on this side and times by 6 on the other side. And what I'm going to get when I've got a 6, and that little divided by line basically is being pulled all the way across, I've got a 6 on the top and a 6 on the bottom. So 6 over 6 is 1. So these guys cancel out and become a 1. And I've got left with an x on this side now, which is what we want. And my other side of the equal sign, 6 times 3 is 18, and that is my answer. And that's how we do what we call one-step equations. But you should be familiar with those, hopefully, from year 8. And I actually want us today to move along to ones that are a little bit harder. And I'm going to get you guys to work through these in a moment. We are going to work down and have a look at two-step equations. Something along the lines of question 4. I might actually jump over to the examples and have a look through here. So I'm now at the examples page here, and these will be great for you guys to write into your books. I'm going to have a look at A, which says 2x plus 3 equals 4. We again want to find x. And previously, in our first set of examples, what we had was just x with a number out the front or x plus something. In this case, I've got a number out the front of the x and a number by itself. So I'm going to need to do 2 steps to get to my x. And my first step is going to be to remove this plus 3. Okay, I need to remove the plus 3 before I can remove the 2 because the 2 is attached to the x. So we need to remove the plus 3. What is the opposite of plussing 3? It is minusing by 3. So I'm going to minus 3 on the left side of the equal sign, and I'm going to minus 3 on the right hand side of the equal sign. So what I end up with is the 3's cancelling out and going to 0. I still have my 2x. So line them up so they're nice and neat. 2x equals 4. I've got take away 3. 4 take away 3 is 1. That's step 1. I now have 2x equals 1. I've gotten rid of that 3. But I still need to find my x, so I need to do something else. I need to do it again. Let's have a look at what we've got. We've got 2 times x happening. I want to find x. I need to get rid of the 2. What's the opposite of timesing by 2? It's dividing by 2. But I have to do it to the other side as well. So my left-hand side has a 2 divided by a 2. These go to 1, and I'm left with an x. My right-hand side, I've got 1 over 2. I can leave it as a half, or I can write it as 0.5. And that's what we call the two-step equation. I've done one step here by removing the 3's, and another step here by dividing by the 2's. And we've got our answer. Okay, I'm going to do another one now. Let's look at B. X over 4 minus 3 equals 7. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit faster. You're going to write it down, and you're going to have a think. You're going to have a think about it yourself. So I want to find the x. I've got an x over 4, but I can't touch that first because there's a minus 3 there sitting at the end. I need to get rid of the minus 3 by going plus 3 on the left, plus 3 on the right. Line them up so they're nice and neat. Now, what happens here? My minus 3 and plus 3 go to 0. Pop it in your calculator if you need to. I've got left with an x over 4. And on the other side of the equal sign, I've got a 7 plus 3, which is 10. That's my first step. Now I need to do another step to get the x by itself. Okay, let's have a look at what's happening here. I have x over 4 equals 10. Now, here we have a divided by 4. What's the opposite of dividing by 4? It's timesing by 4. So I'm going to be timesing by 4 up here and timesing by 4 over here. These 4 and this 4, it's 4 divided by 4, become a 1. So I have a 1x left. I'm just going to write it as x. And a 10 times 4, which is 40. And that's my second step. So if you can just continually follow the steps through like that, we can solve pretty much any equation. I'm going to do C up here. 5 minus 2x is equal to 12. Okay. Step 1. It looks a little bit different to before. I have a plus 5 and a minus 2x. I am going to still need to solve to get my x, but what I want to do is get rid of this 5. Now, this is where a lot of people go wrong. We need to look at the sign in front of the 5. It's a plus 5 because there's no sign. So to get rid of that 5, I need to say minus 5 and minus 5 from the other side of the equal sign. My plus 5 and minus 5 become 0, and I am left with a minus 2x. So be very careful. That minus belongs to that 2. That minus does not belong to that 5. We're looking at the sign that sits in front of that at that number. Okay, so the minus 2x is left down here. My equal sign goes back down. 12 minus 5 is 7. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, we still want to solve for x. Let's do it again. Look what's happening. It's minus 2 times x. That minus exists. Don't throw it away. We want to divide by minus 2 and divide by minus 2. We still have an equal sign in the center, and we're dividing by minus 2 on both sides. Now, you might need your calculator for this, and that is okay. You've got it. You'll never be asked to sit a test like this without it, so let's use it. Minus 2 divided by minus 2 is 1. Okay, these go to 1. I have an x left. Equals 7 divided by minus 2 is minus, do it on your calculator, 3.5. Now that gets us A, B, and C over here. Okay, there's still D, E, and F. I would like you guys to work through D, E, and F if you can. And I hopefully will be back tomorrow, and we'll look at some more of these tomorrow. And and then go on with the exercise.